fact, host a open mic night at Rare Old Times. It's a bar on Preston in Richmond, like every Monday night.
I did not know that.
And I can't tell you how many guitars I have purchased and then given or sold from my I don't know. There's like a disconnect between my brain and my fingers. I think that.
So you play the guitar?
Poorly.
Wow, I didn't know that. Did you, Keith?
I did not know that. I thought I knew everything
Morris.
about Scott, but apparently I did not know that. I'm a professional listener. Somebody has to be a professional.
You heard a professional talker, listener on a good day, and I say that from a spot of love.
Yeah. I didn't respond back, so you were right. I'm working on it, though. I'm working on it.
Judah Wickhauer, what's that? You're going to try to
606-247.
Oh, fantastic! I like it.
So, Judah, what would your instrument of choice be?
Judah is scrambling right now.
Oh, got it. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what's going on right now.
Did not see that.
So, real talk, guys. We'll begin here in a matter of moments. We're going to talk, of course, rates. I mean, I can't imagine how often you get this question, because me personally, in the last 2 days since talking about it on the show, we've gotten the question, Judah and I, 8 or 10 times. Rates are now over 6% on a 30-year fixed. And we were reflecting prior to the show how we were talking probably 2 months ago about a home being sold, Keith and Scott, in Northern Virginia with a squatter in the basement. The squatter conveyed with the sale. And now we're talking 50, 60 days later.
Well, we've been talking about this. This is what we've been titling these series of shows of shift. So it's shifting. Shifting is not a bad thing, right? So, sometimes in itself it's not a bad thing on it. Change is not always bad. Change can be good on that end of it. But we'll kind of take a little bit of a dive into it. I actually took a look at some last time we were at plus 6%, which was 2008. I cross-referenced it to what our sales volume was in the car footprint, so we could talk a little bit about that.
We're going to rock and roll here, guys, in about 10 seconds on the program. Give it a like and a share anywhere you're watching. Wednesdays, Scott Morris is in the house. We're very excited to welcome him back. Judah, excellent. Good job, my friend. We can do it. Guys, good Wednesday morning. I'm Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk with Keith Smith on the I Love CVille Network. Thank you kindly for joining us. We have a Charlottesville, Albemarle County, Central Virginia, Commonwealth, country, and worldwide audience. And today, in what could be the most anticipated Federal Reserve meeting, at least that I can remember, Powell this afternoon is going to announce how much rates are going to move yet again to combat inflation. And the speculation is anywhere from half a point to a full point. On that note, Judah Wickhauer, our director, let's welcome the panel of experts to the show. Scott Morris, friend of the program, he's back. We love Scott Morris. We love, you're looking sharp.
Thank you.
I don't think I've ever seen you wear that shirt. I try to observe and notice people's attire. You wore that one last week
I wore that one last
on the
week.
show.
I did.
He's never worn this one right here, Scott Morris. Good morning,
Thank you
my
for
friend.
paying attention.
Yeah, I always
Thank
pay
you for
attention.
but this is the polo show, right?
It is.
This is the polo show. There was no messaging amongst all
coordination.
of us. No coordination. But today was the polo show. In honesty, on my end of it, I had an 8 o'clock appointment at the Veterans Administration's health clinic, and I just couldn't get my suit put together in time, so I threw a polo shirt on.
You look sharp, Keith Smith.
Thank you.
Keith
Thank
Smith
you.
and Scott Morris. Charles Gunther, welcome to the program. So, Scott and Keith, can you guys remember a more anticipated Federal Reserve
meeting
this afternoon?
They need to put their big boy pants on, come to the table and say, we are committed to doing whatever it takes to contain inflation. And anything outside of that message, you're going to see the bond market, which started last Friday with that CPI print, where somebody grabbed a hold of that string of that sweater and just started to unravel. And unless they, that needs to be the full front. It shouldn't even necessarily have to do with July to September forecast. They can take it on a month-to-month basis, but the message needs to be strongly delivered. We are going to do whatever it takes to stop inflation, and outside of that, you're going to see a sell-off in the bond market.
So what is that in your opinion? What are they going to do?
Today, if they move 50 instead of 75, you're going to see the bond market continue to bleed. Anything, I think 75 is what's priced in. I think that kind of at least gives everybody okay, you seem a little more serious about this attitude. I'll be the first to say, hey, I thought, we saw some decent inflation numbers coming in prior to last week, and was drinking the Kool-Aid. Hey, maybe they're, what they've done is enough, and they're
Maybe
on track.
peaked.
They're
Maybe
on
peaked.
track
You're
to
talking
do
about
enough.
you're talking about the contraction it did last month, right? Not the new one.
Not last Friday.
Yeah.
That came in really hot.
Yeah, and no, last Friday. So right now, CNBC is showing a 30-year fixed 6.25, a little over 6.25. Last Friday, I was still talking 5.25, 5.5 with well-qualified clients. By Monday morning, we were 5.25. By Monday afternoon, I was quoting 6%.
So do you think this 6.25 or 6% of where we are now is already, by meaning priced in?
I think it's priced in right now.
At 75
assuming
or
that
50?
We see a 75
Okay, that's what I was
bips
thinking.
move by the Fed. We see 50 bip move by the Fed. You're going to see mortgage-backed securities, 10-year bond, just the bond market in general is going to start selling off again.
So before the show, I was throwing a theory out there. Does anybody at this table think they'll go higher than 75?
Well, you think one.
I
think a full point.
Look,
I think they move 75 at this meeting.
Well,
and
Powell
then
is so.
They give a strong speech, and then they stop forecasting, and they say we will continue to move depending upon what we see in the market, and the market being more related to inflation than the market itself. Because if they let the market drive the boat, they're going to be in.
So to go back to your question earlier, and so I'm the senior statesman.
That's what I want to ask.
Senior statesman at the table, right?
Is this the most anticipated Fed meeting that you can remember in your lifetime?
So
That's what I want to know.
it's more than that, right? So it's just kind of like 20, 30 years ago, nobody really talked about the Fed, right? You also didn't have what we're doing right now. You didn't have us on Facebook, on social media. There wasn't this information in your thing. You got the news at 6 o'clock with a guy smoking a cigarette or a gal, whatever it was. It was a very different environment. I followed it personally closely because my development money, right, my acquisition and development money was always tied to the Fed because it was a point over prime or 2 points over prime, right? So I followed it pretty closely. But I think as a overall market, we weren't really paying attention to it a lot back in those days. And I'll tell you, I looked at it. 2003, we were at 5.83%. 2004, 5.84%. 05, 5.8. 06, 6.41. 07, 6.30. 08, 6.04. That was.
These are interest rates, guys.
These are interest rates. Thank you. 30-year mortgage rates, averages. What was happening at that time, folks?
So
Market was going nuts.
yes, but this is what we're saying. Market related and
Didn't have
inflation related
inflation,
is more relative to a 1990s 94ish .com, and also at that time we had a Greenspan and a Fed that didn't telegraph their punches. It was like this whole did the guy order a ham and cheese, and is he carrying his briefcase in his right hand versus his left hand, as far as like the tell-all as far as what they're going to be doing later in the day, versus now we've got this more open and robust system, but in doing that, you get a more the market tries to drive more of what's going to happen, or there's nothing that you can have a conversation with anyone on the internet about related to any of this without somebody or the bulk majority telling everyone that everything is already priced in, no matter what the conversation is. Oh, that's already priced in.
Well, that's certainly the
That's the point I was trying to
talking
make.
point with the mainstream media.
until something happens, and then it's shift. Maybe that wasn't
Look
priced
at
in.
you, huh?
Thank you.
That was
Look
good.
at you.
It was good. It
Oh,
was
shit,
good.
worked it in. That's the point I'm trying trying to make, right? You know, back in the day, you had a newspaper, right? You know, it was a smaller group of people that may be talking about this, but everybody's talking about it. So,
I mean, think about it like this. How many people in our country right now know the name Jay Powell? A lot.
yeah.
How many people would know a name or of a person in that position prior to these circumstances?
Sure, but we're talking about a lot of bubble circumstances. Like, dude, when if you're, and I don't mean this in a negative way to anybody's listening, but if your wait staff is talking to you about what crypto to buy, you're in a bubble.
Yeah.
Oh,
no.
well, don't even go there. What did that drop? Like 70% in value, I think I heard this morning.
I mean,
Yeah, no, that's a very good point.
But
that's a very good point,
But
Scott.
that's a really small slice of what most people.
but okay, so when I compared it to the
The
market
crypto,
in general,
the crypto wasn't the point. It was just an example of the circumstances we're in.
so
We're
when
saying.
you look at the Amazons, and you look at all of these companies that are trading 60 times earnings, and then all of a sudden they have like a 50% correction. Netflix had a 70% correction. Those aren't real numbers. Like, at some point that reality had to catch up, and that's part of what we're seeing happen in all of this is on top of, printing, a
Gazillion.
third of the
Yeah.
print that's ever been in
It's pretty interesting.
rotation.
I had this conversation actually with Alex Erpy the other day. We had a cup of coffee to talk about a couple of things.
I guess my point is it's not just one thing.
Well, it
It's-
never is.
Yeah.
It never is, right? You know,
Neil Williamson is paying homage to Volcker, to Paul Volcker,
Yeah.
the 6'7" giant who ended stagflation and had his own rule. He shares a link in the comment section on my Facebook page. Christopher Eagles watching the program. Dan Pettit has a comment that Scott Morris will appreciate. He says, "We will continue to have the home selling even with the higher interest rates. It may stabilize the market somewhat." And then he says, "Scott, how many clients have you been losing due to increase in the interest rates that now have to rent that we're looking at buying?"
Not many. Some of these people were people who weren't making decisions when they had the perfect circumstances. So I wouldn't consider them a loss. The inability to pull the trigger, and then over the course of a year, because a lack of decision making, or doesn't make them any more qualified now at a different price point. Because if they wait, at some point that's going to come back, and maybe they'll be in a better position if they've had some time to think about where.
So
they
what
really
was
want.
that, paralysis of
Yeah,
analysis?
process analysis, or it's laziness,
Yeah.
procrastination. Depends
So-
on how you want to look at it.
So
All
it's-
the above.
It's interesting.
Disorganization, not having the paperwork in order. All the above.
Yeah.
Or believing, maybe not trusted advisors, believing this thing that's in your hand.
Well,
or
yeah. I mean, I've
talking
seen some
heads.
people who kick the can, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh, shift. It's decision making.
Yeah, look at you twice. That's it. So
That's on point.
I'm here for the show.
You're doing good. Yeah, good for you, buddy. So we talked off air before we got on. I can just talk about our business. Our tempo in the last 2 weeks is off the charts. It's off the charts with phone calls. Hey, I'm ready to list. It's off the charts. Hey, I'm ready to buy. It seems to me the tempo, at least from our business anyway.
So what do you attribute that to? Is that because of, the rate storyline, have you guys followed this? The Powell raising rates storyline has now trumped Ukraine, Russia.
Sure.
It's trumped recession. It's literally the top storyline. Look at it. It's
Yeah, yeah.
everywhere.
Well, it's part of the recession conversation.
Yeah, it's part of the
Well.
recession conversation. That's true. It's topped COVID and Russia, Ukraine for sure.
And I'll
It's
tell.
all that's being it's
Yeah.
being pushed down our throat.
Yeah, and that's gonna shift. I just saw on Pantops on the way in the first. They like
Over $5 a gallon gas. I saw it too.
Yeah. So that gets into, I think, starting to get into an emotional part of it. It is, and that's one of the questions I wanted to ask the feed and you gentlemen. Are we looking to start changing our lifestyles a little bit on that end of it? I don't. To Dan's point, and that's the reason
Dude, I still eat ramen like 3 nights a week. So I don't know.
It's because you like it, though.
Yeah. Well, that's.
It's not
yes.
out of
Do you ever take a
necessity.
look at the salt content on
Yeah,
that?
the sodium is through the roof. Yes.
Yeah, I'm
yes.
just
I
saying.
get it, I get it.
As a guy that's like, a 20-something years, I think I'm 20 plus years older than you for sure.
Yeah,
It made
about
Judah
that.
laugh.
Yeah. Take a look at the salt content next time there, Marine.
So Neil wants to highlight this. Neil, we love when you watch the show. Neil Williamson is the president of the Free Enterprise Forum. He says Volcker fought greater than 10% annual inflation rates with contractionary monetary policy and courageously raised the Fed funds rate to 20% in March 1980. He briefly lowered it in June. When inflation returned, Volcker raised the rate back to 20% in December and kept it above 16% until May 1981. That extreme and prolonged interest rate rise was called the Volcker shock. It did end inflation. Unfortunately, it also created the 81 recession. President Jimmy Carter appointed him, and President Ronald Reagan reappointed him in 83.
So I lived through this, and when Scott was talking about earlier, that's what I think is in front of us right
Well,
now.
that's horrendous.
Yeah,
we don't want that.
Well,
that's horrendous.
We're not going to see. So it wouldn't take.
I don't know.
We wouldn't have they wouldn't increase to 20, but what they would do, assuming that they really were committed to it, you'd start seeing full point moves all the way through September. That would shock the market, and we would 1,000% be in recession territory and doing it. But that would, if they wanted to like really stomp it out, that would be the the full on move.
So I think that's what they're going to do. Frankly, I didn't a couple of weeks ago. I didn't.
They
think
should have
so.
already done that.
Well,
and this man, the
so
director said it
Yeah.
in the beginning.
They're late
Rip
to-
off the freaking Band-Aid.
Absolutely, that's the best way to take a Band-Aid
Yeah.
off. You tear it right off. But they didn't. So there's two sides to it, right? The second side of it is the government's going to have to start spending less money, right? Yeah, they're going to have to start spending.
Okay.
Everybody's laughing, but that's what Reagan did.
What's up, John Blair?
That's what Reagan
Scott
did.
Morris gets a very, very deep chuckle out of that
I
comment.
think everybody
so does the
did.
director over there.
I think he
Yeah.
almost fell off of his chair over there.
When the director laughs, it's
The
funny.
government will tell you to stop spending money before the government stops spending money.
So
That's true. That's true.
Neil will remember this, and Dan will remember this. Those who lived through the late 70s and the early 80s, it was a two-sided coin, right? They raised interest rates, and Reagan started cutting programs and spending and all that stuff. It was extremely unpopular at the time, but it was part of the shock.
So what's it do to the local market? You and Yona, you're taking the walk at Lake Monticello. You got Forrest on the leash. His tail is wagging and slapping you on the side of the leg.
No, he's going, huh?
Yona's admiring how beautiful the landscaping is at
And
the lake.
beautiful polo shirt.
She sees Keith Smith is like, oh my gosh, the man is fit. He's muscular.
Oh,
what are you
stop
guys
it.
talking about in the real
Stop it.
estate
Stop.
locally?
Stop it. You had me. I don't want to talk anymore after that. Yeah, so actually what we're talking about is there's three things. So there's two sides of the coin.
Okay.
The kind number coin is what's the market going to do, right? We as Scott, Keith, Jerry, Judah, we can talk about it, but we don't influence it, right? We're not going to influence how interest rates are going to go. We're not going to influence what.
I'm here to badly forecast, just like every other,
Yeah, you're a talking head now. He's a talking head. That's good.
Oh God, what a great band, the Talking Heads! But that's a whole different story. Smith,
Do I have to reel you in?
You have to reel me in.
Do I have to reel you in?
They have to reel me in. But the question, what we're talking about, is what skills we need to re-break back in, bring back to the table to help to do this. And as I was saying earlier, I was actually talking about this on our walk this morning. We are as busy now as we've ever been. We're busier now than we were 2 months ago. So why is that?
So that goes back to, well,
I think it's the motivation from the rates.
I think a lot of it also is, and maybe this is on Yona's half, not 7/8, not my 1/8. People realize that we've been around for a while and realize that we know how to navigate this stuff. And we're getting phone calls, particularly from millennials, of, okay, what do I do now?
Okay, so let's talk advertising real quick, marketing. Clients come up to me and they're like, we watch the news or we listen to the radio or we're on social media and we see our content. Is it time to change the approach to our content creation? And I said, you know what? You as the client are looking for this content. So because you're looking for it, you're going to see it more often than the marketplace does. So I say to the client, let's keep the message out there. With what's happening right now, we're getting so bombarded by mainstream media about what's happening with rates. It's inspiring the last little plethora or group of people to get off their butts and get their acts in gear. I think other folks, colleagues of yours, would also say the last 2 weeks to 30 days have been buzzing with activity as well.
I'm sure.
I think it's the influence of this. Because it's everywhere.
So yes and no from the conversations I've had.
It's yes, maybe
Maybe
no,
yes, maybe no
yes.
Okay, yes, maybe no, yes.
Is that a pop phrase? Or is that a you phrase?
That's a me phrase.
Okay,
that
that's a you
came
phrase.
from a dear friend of mine that when I was in the Corps with in Pakistan back in the 80s.
So some of the people who I've been having these conversations with, these aren't market-driven decisions. These are, what are the rates? Here's where we are. How does that affect me? And then what does that look like down the road? And these are still decisions that are being made not because of market conditions, but because we have a job change, we have a baby, we have all the real estate decisions that these are the people who are going to be making the serious buyer because of life circumstances. And this is what I've been saying over and over again, is still going to make these decisions, but do they have a trusted advisor to work with who is going to guide them down the road? And if that's the case, those are the ones that are going to have a better experience than.
So my current mortgage right now is north of 6%. It's a 30-year mortgage. I even when it was down to 2 or 3%, and we've had this conversation, we didn't refi because I'm not going to stay in the home that long, right? Another 5 years. So we just decided the cost to do that just wasn't worth it. So what we're doing is we're double, triple paying down our monthly, triple payments per year, actually 4 payments per year, which is really kind of offsetting the 6%. I kind of want to pivot a little bit. From our side of it, we had this conversation coming in. We're talking about shifting and how we all do our business a little bit differently. If I was writing a contract for Jerry and you were the loan officer, we would take 24 hours to get you the contract. Right now, because rates are changing so quickly, we have to act a lot faster. Say, okay, hey Scott, we're about ready to write a contract on this. It looks like we're going to get it, right? Where's our client out in the lock-in? So what I want to try to get in is what's a good time to lock in, right? Is that making sense?
Well, why don't we do this? This is a great topic. And let's turn this into the second sizzle reel for Scott Morris. Okay? So with the volatility, and we'll start with what I'm saying here. With the volatility in rates and how they're moving and shifting so quickly, like you've said, overnight or over a weekend, how do you counsel, or what is the counsel you offer your clients to get the best rate possible when there's a large window of time between putting an offer in and closing and getting the keys to a new house?
So Scott Morris, my team, Ross Mortgage, I still have a lock and shop program, and it's something that I talk to clients about. When we start that interview process, we can lock you now, and then over a 30, 60, 90, 120 day period, you don't have to, if the market continues to move up, you are where you need to be, and we can float down within a certain range if the market moves down. And that's something that provides a lot of security and takes some anxiety away. With a day like today, it's very difficult after seeing the market move negative 150 basis points in 4 days, 168, nearly 200 basis points in 6 or 7 days, to then say, hey, I think we locked today versus going, why don't we give it a day or two and see what happens? So each situation can be different, and that's what you need, someone who actually understands what's going on enough to be able to have a conversation to say, hey, I think we do this now. A lot of people last week I went ahead and we made the commitment to lock prior to that CPI print, and we are all so glad that they did. Today might not be that day. Today is probably a let's float and see what happens day. But at the same time, if it's just a cure to anxiety, then let's go ahead and lock and know that it's done. And especially if you are a serious buyer. And what I mean by serious buyer is you're not going to let no dissuade you from continuing to go out and make 3 or 4 more other offers in trying to get under contract because you need to make a decision for your family.
That's fantastic.
Outstanding.
I like how you started with the Scott Morrison Ross Mortgage right there.
Well done.
That's number 2, Judah. There's some hope right there with what he said.
Yeah, so I think the real estate market is going to stay strong. I do not think that 6% mortgages, or maybe if it goes higher than that. I was just looking at my notes right here. Going back to 2003, nothing was any higher than 6.25, around 6.41%. So if we start getting much north of 6.5%, we're going to be in territory that we haven't been since 2003. What'll happen for those who are in our line of work, right? Or what's going to happen is the volume is going to just go down, right? And we can just take a look at that in 2007, when it was 6 3/4, there was 332 units sold here, based on my numbers, right? No new construction, single-family detached car footprint only. So there was 300 houses sold year to date, right? So there will be stuff going on. You're just going to have to change how you do business.
How many homes traded in 2020 or 2021?
Yeah, so
Year to date.
I just took a look at 2022, I can tell you.
Okay.
Because I got that notes down.
Year to date?
Year to date was 1,243 units. So that's almost 1,000 units more than in 07. Little less.
2007, there were 300 homes traded?
Now, keep in mind, our criteria is pretty narrow, right? It's the car footprint, it's the 6 jurisdictions, it's single-family detached only, right? And no new construction. I pulled that new construction.
That's not that narrow of a silo. You're saying in 2007.
Well, if you put attached in there and if you put new construction,
but
that
still,
number goes
that's not that narrow.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to compare apples to apples,
Good Lord.
not apples to pears. So we're at almost 1,000 more units sold.
Halfway through the year.
Yeah. 2009 were like 1,200 units. In 2009, we were at 101 days on the market. So one of the neat things I wanted to take a look at this is from a days on market scenario. And my position always been when you hit about 60 is when you start doing it. So if you look somewhere and when you start seeing 2007, 2008, 2009, we start moving into the 60, 90, 100 days.
Really became a buyer's market.
It became a buyer's.
What's the DOM now?
DOM now is 5.
For 2022, the DOM is still 5?
These are median based on that same
Lord.
criteria. So we're like eons away from that. It's just the buyer pool is substantially less. Everybody is going to have to up their skills.
There's also a big difference with now, and then I'll throw this to Scott. 2007, 2008, the homes were priced very differently than now. Over the last 2 or 3 years, we've had massive appreciation and equity creation. So the barrier of entry is way harder and way greater now than it was in this previous period of 2007, 2008, 2009. I mean, what do you think? Back of the napkin, appreciation since 2007, 2008 versus 2022.
Right.
40, 50%?
I can tell you exactly.
How much?
It was in 2007, same criteria.
Yeah.
Median sales price was $305. It's now $430.
Okay, that's a massive jump. The wages have not reflected that leap in housing and home costs. You would agree with that?
Oh, 100% agree with that. But what wages have taken off in the last 24 months is a huge contributor to the inflation that we're seeing.
That's fair. That's a good point.
Yeah, but it's not keeping,
I'm not, no, two different things. Yeah. So housing doesn't even get priced in the CPI.
Right.
For the exact purpose of it. If it did, it would butcher that number even,
It'd be
instead
way
of
uglier.
8%, would be 16%.
Yeah, it'd be way uglier. Yeah.
Well, so just to throw...
Consumer Price Index, for people wondering, CPI. What is that? Gas, groceries, Utilities. What's in the CPI? I'll look up the exact
Yeah,
definition here.
It's a bunch more than that, but housing definitively is not in it.
Right.
Definitively not in it. Yeah. So and the thing that you're looking at in 2006, 2007, 2008, which I didn't cross-reference to it, the thing that's really blown up percentage-wise is the cost of rents, right? So, I still believe this. Owning a home is a hedge against inflation. We've been talking about since November on the show that inflation I think is the thing that's going to bite us in the butt, and it's kind of coming around, that it's somewhat biting us on the butt. But, all that's going to happen is we're just going to go from 1,243 homes this time next year to some number maybe less than 1,000.
This is a good topic for you from Bill McKenzie.
Hey, Bill.
Do a roundtable of realtors that have experience with mid-80s interest rates and how they survived being in the business.
We can go back to, we did a Legends from the Lessons with, I forgot, just dropped my name.
Where do you get these names? They're very good.
Yeah.
I like that.
Excuse me, Lessons from Legend?
Yeah. I like that.
It's hanging around you.
It's good. It's good branding.
Hanging around you. Oh God, I forgot. We had a young agent, and it'll come back to me. We'll change. My ADD kicked in, and we'll go ahead and chime in. But we did it a couple of shows ago on a Monday where that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to bring in Arlene Yobs.
Oh yeah,
Arlene Yobs. So if you Google Arlene Yobs and Real Talk with Keith Smith, you'll pick up the show. But that's exactly what I wanted to do. And thank you. I have that coming up.
That's a great idea.
Here's the problem with that. They're kind of working their way out of the market, right?
Yeah.
So just think about, people that were doing this in the 80s.
Or in their 60s now, at the young.
At the young side, right? And so that's part of what we have to talk about here is some of these agents that have been in the market for 5 years or so, or haven't been around since 2008 or 9.
Well, that's like people, we've got an entire generation of people in the financial market who've never seen this kind of inflation. That's a very real, they don't know, what do you do with the bond market that's doing with what it does?
Well, you go back to Neil's point, you start looking at Volca, and that's why I think,
we got an entire generation, maybe two, of business professionals that have not seen a recession.
A real recession.
Yeah, real recession.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I don't know how you characterize the pandemic, the first 6 months of the pandemic, or 9 months.
Yeah.
I mean, by definition, it's a recession, but that's more, I would say, more pandemic than what we're heading into now.
And then in the real estate end of it, we predicted a V, and it sure as heck happened.
Yeah,
happened that way. I think on real estate right now, we're gonna hit the top of the bell curve, right? We're gonna stay kind of flat. We're gonna appreciate a little bit. I had 3 meetings with sellers who are going to turn into buyers yesterday, and they were all like, "Did I miss the market? Did I miss the market?" And my answer to them is, "No. If you buy today and you hold on for a long enough period of time, and in reality, it's probably 5 to 7 years at this point, we'll experience between 3 and 5% appreciation year over year. That's compounded, right? Your rent's not going to do that." Right?
Correct. And there's an entire, as far as when we talk about rates and what's going on, there's a huge group of people who believe that the U.S. 10-year is going to be back into the low 2s to high 1s inside of a 24-month period. So that's, assuming that mortgage rates follow that trend, that's going to bring things back down to the low 4s.
So you're saying refinance?
I'm saying
lock it in, refinance.
I'm saying
in 24 months.
I'm kind of tired of putting a timeline behind that prediction because then I feel like we're constantly catching a falling knife.
Well, I mean, and this is on the internet in a microphone on camera forever. That's the tough part about what we do here.
Luckily, I don't think I'm that important to where people are going to go back. Look what Scott said.
Yeah, I forget that. I get reminded all the time about that. But. Are you seeing more cash down? In other words, are you seeing larger down payments, or are you seeing folks borrowing more money? Does that make sense?
So right now, I'm still seeing people who go, it's entry level. Most of those people don't have this pile of cash to get in the game with. It's how little can I put down to make this work. When you get into your 450 and up price range, you see a little more of, I can put this much money down. I'd like to get in, knowing where rates are. Can we get in without mortgage insurance? What do we need to do?
That's right, yeah.
PMI.
Those conversations.
So you're seeing that question of PMI coming up a little bit more because at those price points and stuff like that, it gets a little pricey.
Yeah.
On that end of it. So for those that know, what amount do you need to put down not to have PMI?
20%.
Yeah.
Unless you're a veteran, and then the answer is 0.
Yeah.
20%. So more comments coming in here. This is coming in from Stacy for Scott. Please go down the road of when rates could drop again. Scott alludes to the 24-month threshold. Why does he see this dropping in 2 years?
Because with every recession that the government has created, from the peak of their interest rate increase, they begin to put their thumb back on the scale, or that means some act of lessening within 8 months from the last increase. So I don't think we're out of the increase, and that would mean that sometime in late 2023, statistically speaking, if we get to peak inflation and they stop increasing and they've unloaded enough of their portfolio by early 2023, and what I mean by that is the government has had been purchasing billions of dollars of bonds over the course of the last 24 months, and then in May they begin selling those bonds. So they're unloading a $10 trillion or $9.52 trillion portfolio back out into the open market. It's kind of the opposite of quantitative easing. So as they do that, along with these interest rate hikes, at some point, once they're going to run the economy into a recession, at some point they're going to stop the rate hikes, and then an average of 8 months later, they begin to put their thumb back on the scale in order to help the economy take back off again. So that's how I'm getting to that estimate. Now, at the same time, I'm also done guessing about when we get there, but it's going to happen.
Historically, not the pandemic recession, because that was not really, in my opinion, that really wasn't a recession, because we didn't have 2 consecutive quarters of it, of negative growth. But in any event, generally they last 18 to 24 months. That's kind of the rule of thumb, with the exception of the time of great unpleasantness, which lasted years on that, which was a bit of an outlier, and I would consider that a depression over a recession, frankly, at least from my perspective on that end of it. But so what's going to happen? I think they're gonna. I think you're somewhat right. I think the Fed is going to start all of a sudden deciding this is a great time to rip the Band-Aid off and start making some quick increases to try to shock the market, which will put us into very much so a recession. I don't think gas is coming down anytime soon. I don't think inflation is going to come down quickly on that end of it. And it's going to take, after that shock happens, probably 18 to 24 months to get through that.
So one quick correction. It was a recession during COVID. The year 2020 had back-to-back quarters for certain of recessionary data. Here's a comment that I think we got to tread carefully with. And this is from Jennifer, who says, first, Jennifer, thank you for watching. She's watching in Short Pump. She commented on the show on Monday where you asked where she was from, Keith.
Got it.
She said, many of our parents and many of the boomers, a third of their net worth has now been erased because of what's happened with the markets over the last month and a half. Can you guys talk of how that could impact housing and how that could impact what you guys are doing professionally? I mean, that's true. I mean, I was having this conversation with family members over the weekend, I mean, a lot of folks that are, upper 60s and the 70s that are on a 401k, set fund, set retirement, have seen 25% to a third of their retirement erased over the last 60 days.
Plus, it's almost 10% more expensive to live.
Right. Plus the $5 gas
Yeah.
and groceries.
Yeah.
I mean, that's serious.
So that goes to a conversation that I've been having all week in relation to higher rates. Some of these, and not everyone is in this position, but for those that have properties that have appreciated 20% in the last 24 months, and what we just discussed, 50% in the last 12 years, now may be the time for them to look at taking that equity out or selling that house and then buying into a smaller downsizing position.
And that's what she's getting at. She
and
puts
putting-
a follow-up comment. She says, will this open up inventory because boomers will realize they no longer can afford their current home with taxes and inflation as it currently is?
So I think afford versus having someone go, let's look at if we took this money, if you were to sell the house and downsize and be able to increase your cash flow, and to put yourself in a better position without having to draw down further into your 401k while that still has a chance to recover, is this a path that could present you,
Probably so.
Yeah, that the entire boomer turnover of inventory is something that we've been talking about for the last 5 years. These people aging out of homes or wanting to downsize in general is going to be what opens up the opportunity for the millennial generation to buy into some of that property.
So as the boomer at the table, because I am a boomer, I'm a late boomer, I guess or early, depends.
Is that a geriatric boomer?
No, he's a young boomer.
I'm a young.
A young boomer. I'm a geriatric millennial. Got it.
Right.
Got it.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate that.
He's a young boomer. He gave you a compliment.
Yeah.
But the geriatric thing, I got.
Well,
But so it's interesting. My family, like we're going to bring Pop's coming in for Father's Day. My father.
That's a perfect example. It's Pop and your mom.
Yeah.
Well, so we're bookend on both ends of the boomer, right? Dad's at the early or late. I don't know how you define it. We're at one end of the boomer scale. Mom and Pop at a different boomer scale. It's their wedding anniversary, and the kids all chipped in to send them to go talk about how this is impacting them. Sent them to go to Cape Charles for the week, right?
Nice.
And they almost didn't go, right? Even though we paid for the bed and breakfast and all that kind of things, as the adult kids chipped in to do that, they didn't want to do it because of gas prices,
money?
food prices, right? It's a real thing. They're outliving their money,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and then they just had, and I'm not talking yours specifically, I'm talking in general terms, 25% erased in the last 45 days.
Yeah, so
60 days.
So Dad's a retired New York City fireman, so he's got a pension, and it does go up for CPI and all that kind of great stuff. They probably have a little bit. I don't know too much about their personal finances.
But in general terms.
In general terms,
Yeah.
yeah. So here's the deal. We've been talking about this all the time. The boomer, me and Yona, and the millennial are competing for the same product. Exactly the same product. Now the difference is I can sell my house.
Right.
And you're downsizing for cash versus them trying to use it as an entry point.
That's
Right.
exactly right. I
Right.
can downsize. So but to go back in my up tempo phone calls, they're retired folks.
Okay, so that's her point. Is
Yeah.
her point accurate that what's happening with markets, with boomers losing a lot of their retirement, call it 25 to 30%, is that motivating them at a greater clip to list their houses?
No.
Okay, that's what she's asking.
The conversation is, it's costing me too much to live in this house. I got to get out. It's too much house. It's costing me too much money. My electric bill's gone up. All this great stuff. I need to find something smaller that I can live in. Most people that we're talking to don't follow that. They park their money in it and they leave it alone, and they really don't pay much attention.
So Jennifer, he's saying it's the inflation and not the the disappearing of the 25% of the retirement account.
It's what we predicted in November and December, that inflation is going to have a bigger impact on the real estate business. Not necessarily negative, because, like I said, the tempo's picking up on it. And mom and dad can sell their house with a chunk of cash come out of it, because they've built enough equity and paid enough of it off that they're either going to come in and move with us, or they're going to go ahead and try to buy something, frankly, out of the area because they can't afford it.
Well, I mean, then let's go down that road, and we'll get Scott's take on this. Markets crumbling, recession horizon, inflation out of control, $5 gas on Pantops today. Literally saw it, both of us. Yep. I mean, what's that do to the socioeconomic demographics of the community?
I was going to jump back a little bit on what her 25% loss. Well, you got to look at.
I mean, S&P's bear market. S&P's at 25% for the year.
Okay, but that's fine. But let's have a realistic conversation about that. In December of 2019, the S&P 500 was at 3265, and then we went up to 4725. So that's a 30% increase. If these people were retiring 3 years ago, they're actually in a same or they're in the 3770 versus 3625 2 years ago. So not much. They had the loss is a paper loss, not a real. It's a mindset more than a reality.
Sure.
But it's only a loss if you take it out.
It's only a loss if you take it out.
But that mindset's still impacting consumer confidence.
I don't disagree with that, but at the same time, we're not talking. If they'd had a 401k that they'd had for 20 years, there still should be in a pretty relatively good place. If you take away the fictional, the paper, we had it was paper money. It was paper money that pushed the market. The government was, we put all this money into print. So yes, if you look at it that way, they did lose something, but over a 24-month span, they didn't really lose it.
The proverbial house of cards is finally crumbling, is what he's saying.
So I had a meeting yesterday at Old Trail. A seller north of 65 years old, helped them buy the house maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I can't remember.
Walking away with some bank.
Well, but here's the reason he's selling. It's not the 401k. It's not all that kind of great stuff. I can't walk up 3 stories any longer, right? I want a master bedroom on the first level on that end of it. The taxes and the HOA fees are killing me on this stuff. I need to find something single level, a little bit smaller, over wherever.
Your traditional reasons for real estate transactions.
Traditional reasons for doing that. I literally asked the question. I said, so how is this whole stock market affecting? He said, I really don't look at it. I don't pay attention to it. It is what it is, right? But right now, this is the real problem I've got, and this is the real thing I need to fix. I need you to help me to fix it. How much can I get for my house, right? And then what can I buy, and where can I buy it?
How about this comment? Almost a little nervous to ask Scott this comment here. Steven says, what's the panel's take on what midterms are going to do for all of this?
Market related? I don't know. I think this is an inflation story that is going to be, and there's a bunch of other political aspects, socioeconomic and social driven issues that are going to cause a shift in who has control of things.
100%.
I don't think that is going to be specifically related to the market. The inflation narrative is going to control what happens there, and it's probably going to cause some pain for some people who are currently in office.
Yeah, so the question is...
Don't you think midterms are going to be all inflation? I think that's all Americans care about right now.
Inflation and crime, depending on what city you live in and state.
Yeah. I can't remember who said it, and if Neil's watching, he'll know.
Neil's watching.
It's the economy, stupid.
Yeah.
It's always the economy.
It's
stupid.
not schools anymore. It's not
always
COVID. It's not COVID. It's not masking.
Always the economy, stupid.
It's not parents and autonomy. It's not any of that. It's
and
the dollar.
And the follow-up question that I have is I'm not so sure if the Congress really impacts this much one way or the other. I think that's.
I mean, they certainly did during COVID.
On some level,
They did.
after
They did.
on some level, so it's more like when things are good, they pat themselves on the back,
Sure.
and then when things
Sure.
are bad, they point fingers.
Well, it's exactly right. If it's going great, hey, look at me. If it's not going great, look at Jerry, right?
Yeah.
But look back to that point, and what was the options that they had available to them in the middle of COVID, right?
You're saying the quarantine?
Yeah.
I mean, not quarantining and crushing small businesses. I mean, and not, we're all pro small business here,
Yeah.
but I don't want to,
Monday morning quarterback.
and we are Monday morning quarterbacking, but let's certainly identify that they prioritized big box over mom and pop.
Oh, that's a doubt. Without doubt.
And now the mom and pops are still, I mean, one of the reasons people keep asking is why are all these businesses for sale is these people are just.
They're wore out.
They're now just getting out of it. Where like folks like us, where we're not in F&B, we're not in retail, not hospitality. We're not actually selling. I mean, you're selling a product, but it's not like you have a product on a shelf or inventory that's going to die. They're saying we're still feeling it.
Yeah, I look at everybody at this table more in the education business
Yeah.
than the selling business.
Yeah.
On that end of it. But yeah, we talked about this. I can't remember what show. I mean, the poor restaurant, right? They got hammered by COVID.
Dude, and a bunch of them are about to come on.
I'm sure of it. They can't hire anybody.
Can't get workers.
Can't get workers.
And the workers they can get are demanding more money per hour than they can afford with their business.
So I'm actually bringing on a couple of the owners of Roots here later on. I think it's going to be in July, and I was actually had a pre-show conversation with him, and he was telling me that like 70% of their salad bowls have chicken in it, and their cost of chicken went up like 4 or 5%. So, and I said, so did your prices go up? No, right at the moment we're eating it. We're literally eating it. That's only going to last but so
That
long.
can't
Dude,
work.
I've always had this conversation, and it's a loss leader, and I get it, and blah, blah, blah. But if you can sell a rotisserie cooked chicken in the grocery store for $6.99, and you can get a T-shirt at Target or TJ Maxx for $4.99, that chicken had to have been hatched, grained, raised,
You know a
shipped.
little bit about chickens, don't you?
I've got a couple chickens, and then paid someone, processed,
Low and Judah laughs.
and then cooked in the store, and then set out there in its plastic container. Like it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, that should
to
be
me.
like $20.
It should be.
Yeah,
It should
yeah,
be. It's an $18 thing that
Yeah, sure.
I don't get it.
I love Scott's farm.
So how many chickens we got left?
I'm back, baby.
back, baby.
I've got like 22 birds and a duck.
The duck.
Yeah,
The duck is
Duck.
new.
yeah. The duck is new. I took the girls to like this poultry
Scott
auction
Morris
and-
is a gentleman farmer in Culpeper County. He's got is it called a farmette?
Yeah, we call it.
Is it a farmette?
Yeah.
He's got a farmette in Culpeper County.
So how are you keeping them alive? How did you solve that problem?
So I let them really open range and like now they get locked up every night. There was I thought that so I
That's
had
a
this.
video I'd love to see.
Dude.
Scott.
So they put themselves up. They go back and.
Oh, they really?
yeah.
You got trained chickens. Look at you.
But
He's got his trained
dude, I
chickens.
had this enormous like raccoon that had learned that it could like swing around and like pull up and get into. So it had gotten in and like murdered, whatever he
Murdered.
did, and left. And then so I set up this game camera and I'm seeing like him inside, and I'm like how is he getting in? So I started locking all these different things, and I finally found this one spot where he was actually climbing on top of this fenced run, swinging over, pulling up, getting in, and then just wreaking havoc in there. And I mean, I lost like 20 birds in the course of 3 weeks, but so we're back.
The murdering raccoon killed 20 birds?
Yeah, just he'd go in, he'd eat 3 or 4 of them.
Tarzan's into your chicken coop?
It's crazy.
What do you tell your kids? He's got 3 kids under 5, right? Do you talk about the murdered chickens?
Yeah, they're cool with it. They're like,
They are?
yeah,
Wow.
they're pretty even keel with the murder. But and then they were happy. They got a bunch of baby chicks again. They were they got the duck. It was all good.
Oh, it's always a new day and a wild day at the Farmette in Culpeper
So,
County.
so let me
for the
get this
gentleman
straight.
Farmer.
You've got your chickens under control, maybe not so much your twins.
No, the girls are a force for sure.
I love the stories. Jamie Turner, did you hear that? He's repping the pep here. Jamie Turner, Scott Morris says, Neil Williamson shares a couple of links for Keith. Bill Clinton advisor, Raging Cajun, James Carville said, it's the economy, stupid.
That's what it was.
The
I couldn't
economy.
remember who it was, but I knew somebody said it.
Yeah.
It's the economy, stupid. And you know what? Keep it simple, stupid, because it's the economy, stupid. So we've been kind of talking about the shift, and we've been talking about this, that, and the other thing, maybe being a little bit of doom and gloom until we got the excitement of the chickens,
I
murdering
don't
of the
think we've
chicken.
been doom and gloom. I think we've been realistic.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Better choice of words, yeah. But and it's a bit of a, when we go on our walk, it's a little bit of a conflict with Yona and I.
Well, she's an optimist and an upbeat person.
Eternal optimist. I'm just trying to be a realist.
Yeah.
That this is coming, and the best way to come for something, right? So we're both Marines, right? Proper planning prevents piss poor performance, right?
7 Ps.
So proper planning prevents piss poor performance. So now is the time to do proper planning because it's coming, right? And what the way we were all doing business yesterday isn't going to be the same tomorrow. It isn't the same today. You know, you can't use yesterday's methodologies or even today's methodologies to address what's coming on the end of it. And you know, your thinking has to be at the speed of light. I say this all the time. One of the reasons I love doing this show is I did get my bike ride in this morning, but I also did some reading on it, and it makes me better at what I do, or at least I think it does.
Woody Finchman, that's why they call it the dismal science. Woody Fincham of Fincham and Associates dropped off the largest bottle of Buffalo Trace I'd ever seen. Thank you for that, Woody.
And that
Did
looks
you
like
see
it's-
that, Scott?
I did. I see it now.
It's ginormous. It is ginormous. Woody, my friend, thank you kindly for that. The entire studio is
Enjoys
grateful for your generosity. That was a pleasant surprise. Gentlemen, 2:00 is the meeting, so we're less than 3 hours away. We'll see how that what response that causes. I'm in agreement with what you said, Keith, that the market is still going to persevere and move
Sure.
forward, and that we got the buyers there. I think we're all concerned about the affordability that this is causing for the area. And we haven't seen the impact of more students than ever before this fall at UVA, which we will see soon. What are you following for the following 6 months, Keith, as we head now halfway through June?
Yeah, so, I just made a whole big statement about, you can't use yesterday's methodologies and today's methods to go forward. But you want to look backwards?
So I hear you say that. I think that taken into consideration, there are in any set of business, in any business format, there are basic fundamentals that when things are changing and when everything is when there's chaos everywhere, if you go back to the basics
That's exactly the
of
point.
shoot, move, and communicate,
Yep.
that is what helps keep less chaos in your world. It keeps the clients and business partners that you're working with more structured and gives them something familiar to lean on. And it creates a set of structure, not just for yourself, but for them. And everybody operates everyone operates better in a structured environment.
So we're back in the Marine Corps, right? Shoot, move,
Shoot, move, and
communicate.
I like that reference.
Fire, move, communicate. You and I are communicating and do that. And the second thing is adapt and overcome, right? So now's the time to adapt, to overcome. The shoot, move, and communicate. Communications is what it's all about. Communicating with your partners, communicating with your clients. Okay, this is what's going on.
Do you want to talk about for the agents that are watching, the gas card, $100 gas card raffle, an open house? Did you send it? Did you let him know?
I did not. I apologize. I didn't do that. But yeah, so we're seeing something that we haven't seen in
years
since 2009, 10, and 11. Just to put a little perspective on it, everybody would say 2010 was a pretty tough year for real estate, right?
Yeah.
On that, so same criteria, 223 units sold, 90 days on market, average median sale price was 297. So even in the midst of real estate
The
depression,
lows.
the lows, there were still units being sold.
That's not that many units, though.
Compared to 1,200 units, it's not, but 03, 800, 04, 600, 05, 400, 6, 400, 7, 300. So 1,243 units is pretty big. That's a
That's
lot.
a lot.
That's a lot number. These 4, 5, 600 units, 700 units is more of a normal ratio. It's kind of like, right, we've been talking about 3% is not normal, folks.
Yeah.
Don't get used to it, right? The average is 7, since 1971, the average is 7.77% on a mortgage. Average numbers based on our footprint is in those numbers. So that's kind of double of what it has to be. But you're 100% right. Two things about that. When was the last, the real estate agents that are watching, when's the last time you've seen a broker open house?
Well, to tell them what happened at this open house.
So
Listen
there's
to
a
this.
broker open house on East High Street.
In the city,
In the
under
city.
500K.
Under 500K.
New construction.
No, it's,
Pretty close to new construction.
yeah, it may be a year or two old,
Yeah.
not much more than that.
Under 500K in the city, dude, you'd have people clubbing people
Yeah,
on the
we're-
side of the
we're-
road to get that house.
Yeah.
Like
It-
hitting them with clubs.
It's a condominium environment.
Townhome.
Townhome environment on that end of it. But they were having a broker open house. I can't literally remember the last time I've seen that. So for those who do not know, so what happens is in a market where you don't have multiple offers and it's not moving 1,000 miles, you used to do that. You used to give us workups on it. Say, look, I'm selling Jerry's house. Give me a workup at this interest rate on how much this is going to cost. But brokers, real estate agents, come in and take a look at it.
Give me your pros and cons.
Give me your pros and cons. Am I overpriced?
But what was the prize to get people there?
Was $100 gas card.
To incentivize people showing up to the broker open house, they were raffling a $100 gas gift card.
So we used to do that, but it was $50.
Yeah.
Dude, it's back.
yeah.
I mean, it just shows you that.
So, I mean, well, that was 2019. I mean, I was showing up with a tray of sandwiches.
Yeah,
and-
that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
That stuff is back.
So this market that I'm glad you raised that 2019, and I didn't pull 2019 or 18 numbers. I think you're going to start, even though the interest rates are going to be over 6 or somewhere hovering around 6 on that demand, I think you're going to see a market more like 2018 and 2019, a real estate market that is. I think that's what you're going to see. Back to, hey, Scott, I got a broker open house. Hey, I'll show up with lunch. How do you get real estate agents to show up? You feed them, and you,
You give 'em
gas.
booze.
Hey, well, you can't do that.
And gas gift cards.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
booze them up and you gift card them with gas.
Yeah. No booze. Food, and this is in the middle of the
Oh, this
day,
is a family
Jerry.
show, sorry.
This is in the middle of the day,
Okay.
Jerry. But that's what you would do, and you would get real estate agents and professionals to come in there. I would venture there's a large percentage of real estate agents that never done that before, don't know how to set it up,
Oh my God, dude. A huge percentage.
don't know how to market it,
Yeah.
don't know how to manage it, don't know how to handle
Feedback.
Yeah, so we have 49 open houses.
One of the agents watching the program said that these broker open houses need more gluten-free food.
Gluten-free, free
food.
food.
Okay.
Understood. Or booze.
It's in the middle of the day, Keith. You don't booze.
Sorry
you
about
guys
that.
don't booze. Sorry about that.
Sorry about that.
Sorry about that.
Sorry.
Gas gift cards to drive engagement at open houses.
Yeah,
There was a time where the open house, we were having the conversation on this show.
that would they ever come back?
Is the open house forever done?
Yeah.
We literally were talking about that on the show. And now the open house, not only is it back, but it's back with incentives.
So you two guys are smart on math. Last 7 days, as of this morning, so this is going from 6/8 to 6/15, 93 new homes came on the market. 49 are having open houses. There's 49 open houses that came on the market in that same week. Remember, it was like 0 and 0 and 0 and 0. So open houses are back. So talk about skill sets. A lot of agents, that takes a skill, right? You've got people coming through.
Interacting with strangers in another stranger's house and making them feel comfortable and selling them on a $100,000 deal that this home is where they should raise their kids, that ain't easy.
And it's interesting. We just had 2 of the 3 of the boards I sit on. 2 of them had the first in-person meetings. It took us 15 minutes to kind of figure out.
This
We
is
gotta
how
get to work.
This is how we do this again.
How do we do this again? Right? It took us about 15 minutes to get through. I was chairing both of them, and when I do that, unlike this show, I follow a very close time frame. But we had to pick up 15 minutes in an hour and a half meeting because nobody was used to meeting in person on the end of it. But 49 open houses.
What do you think about this comment from Brian? What's this do to the real estate industry?
I think you're going to see the flipper kind of work its way through the market. I don't unless it's cash.
What's the flipper? What do you mean?
It was a TV show. Hold on a second.
Charlottesville's finest.
It was a TV show back in I think the 70s with a right, flipper. You remember Flipper?
Yeah, the dolphin. Yeah.
The dolphin. Okay, we got to see how Keith's brain works right here. Brian asked the question, what does this economic hardship do to the real estate market?
And I went to the 70s.
And he immediately goes to a dolphin that starred in a sitcom on Nickelodeon in the 70s.
No, there was no such
I don't.
thing as
Nickelodeon wasn't even.
Wasn't around.
Where was it on?
This
Where
was,
did it
this was
air?
a major.
God.
This was like an ABC.
This
CBS,
was ABC?
This was a
Oh,
network
NBC,
show.
and you
They
went and watched
They
it
only
at
had 4 networks at the
You're
time.
telling me Flipper the Dolphin was on prime time?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Flipper the Dolphin was on Monday through Friday after 8 p.m.
I got 1 day a week.
Yeah. Sure.
After 8 p.m.
Yeah.
Probably,
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Then Lassie.
Charlie's Angels.
I know
Lassie,
Charlie's Angels.
Waltons.
Yeah.
Like these are all. Yeah. I
And
mean,
everybody would make sure they're home and they'd eat dinner.
Appointment
and everybody
TV.
would sit down and go ahead and do that. I don't remember when the
Neil just shared the Flipper the Dolphin IMDb link.
Yeah.
Neil Williamson, you are a good people. I love you, Neil
right.
Williamson.
That was a classic show.
Oh, it was a great show. That was a smart dolphin.
Smart
That was a
dolphin.
very smart dolphin.
So a flipper is somebody who buys a home, fixes it up,
There's where you're going.
and then sells it.
Okay.
That's where Keith's
Very
brain
nice.
came back. So yeah. So
Dan says he always checks the open houses where he can get a free lunch, and that's why he goes to them.
Man, there's a lot of there is so much truth
Dan's
in
not
that
the only
statement.
one.
You know, so the thing about Dan is he's actually honest about it. I can tell you back in 04 or 5 and 6 in the middle of the doldrums, right? And people were not making a lot of transactions because we were only in the 300 to 400.
That's how agents stayed alive.
That's how agents
they
had
went
lunch.
to open houses.
They went to open house, had lunch.
Oh, Dan,
Right.
that was so funny. That's so funny.
And every
Which
joke.
agent, let's do some superlatives. Which agent has the best open house catering and all the fixings?
Wow, it's been a long time. I can't remember. Literally, it's been, right now, open houses are not.
Whichever one has me supplying lunch.
Oh, good answer.
What's your buy? Are you like a take it away sandwich kind of guy?
Yeah, I'm like a good deli selection, depending on where I'm gonna be. I wouldn't, there's a couple different places that do some pretty good sandwich platters. That's usually what I go for. But and noted now, I will make sure if I'm involved that we'll have some gluten-free options.
Ooh, Scott Morse with the gluten free.
Might just be gluten-free cookies, but say la vie, baby.
I'm a big sandwich platter kind of guy. Foods of all nations, take it away.
Well,
Does a good job.
Yeah, you've got to. It's got to be nimble and people
Yeah.
grab
Yeah,
something and walk around. But I've been in this time frame where they would
Dan
have.
Pettit says Southern Homes and Frank Bailiff has the best open house catering.
Oh, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I
would
can see
totally
that.
agree.
I can
with
totally
that.
see that.
But some homes, I remember they would actually have it like catered, like an actual chef back in the day, just to attract people to come in and do it. But yeah, we're going back to those skill sets, and it's communication, right? If it's open houses, how do you communicate with the folks walking in? Because you got to know your stuff. Because they're going to ask you questions. They're going to say, hey, where's the interest rates going, and so forth and
So
so on.
on this open house thing, in the right neighborhood, and this is something I've done a couple times depending on the area, we've really done like a blowout, had, enough, this is, 2019, I'll bring in a food truck.
Really?
Yeah. So, but if you're like in a cul-de-sac, the right neighborhood, the right area, yeah, 100%. If it's,
Dude, Scott Morris will hook your open house up.
So,
Food truck,
I like
catering.
food trucks.
yeah, and it shows well. It's like, it gives,
It's good for the Instagram.
Yeah,
it's great for
100%.
the gram.
And
Kevin
and
Quick.
it's good because neighbors around there see it,
Yeah,
right, and do that. And some agents have different opinions about open houses, right? That it's to generate leads for the agent, and not so much the
I mean,
buyer.
the open house is to show tangible production for your client and for the agent to generate new opportunities for his or herself. That's what the open house is.
But
we all know that.
But it's interesting because I've been using the open houses because, like I said, our tempo has increased, and so we have I've got the kids coming down for Father's Day, coming from
Ooh.
Seattle and all that stuff.
They
And
love you.
I think they're coming to see Mom, but anyway, that's a whole different story. But I had to break it to him yesterday. I've got appointments with people all day Saturday, all day Sunday on that end of it. And so what I'm using the open house for is, look, this is on our short list. While I'm helping some other people, would you do me a favor and go through the open house, let them know you're working with Keith and Yona on that kind of great stuff, see if you like it, and we'll kind of do it that way because we, much like the restaurant, we don't have enough agents on our team to handle the volume of people that want to go out and look on the weekends now.
That's good.
So
That's a
we're
good problem
using
to have.
that.
That's a good problem.
Yeah, we're using that.
Kevin Quick is that Remax? Kevin Quick.
Yes.
Okay. Kevin Quick has this comment. This future market will separate the real estate investor who creates value from the real estate investor who rides the tide.
sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
that's
we're-
what we've been saying. That's what I've been saying for some time as far as you see rates go up and investors have to make these cash flow decisions, the more savvy is going to be who's left and these ones that,
It's going to help with the word that we don't using very often is the amount of homes for sale, right? Because they're gonna put them
Places to live.
places to live. They're going to put folks on, they're going to put homes on the market, capitalize on the appreciation that they've had and that stuff. But
do I really want to be a landlord? It's a game that people, wow, these people are kind of a pain in the ass. Maybe this isn't what I really want to do with my life.
Well, that's when you hire Ally Property Management. And,
Suzanne Real.
100%.
and Suzanne
We
Real.
love you, Suzanne.
And,
Scott Morris, close with a message to the viewers and listeners.
Same, I'm going to stick consistently to talk, communicate, trust your trusted advisors. If they're giving you advice, it's because they are preaching to your best interest. I'm kind of done, I've said throughout the show, with market predictions overall. But what I will say is if you have a payment that you are comfortable with, if the people that you are working on your side and are treading under, like a duck on water, pedaling around for you, are doing everything it takes to put you in the best position and you're comfortable with what those numbers are, then be comfortable moving forward. If things have gotten to a point to where you cannot take the anxiety of the decision making, then put it on the sidelines and just do what's best for you and your family in doing so. But take that as the mindset that you do with everything in life. Do what's best for yourself and for your family, and good things will continue to happen.
Well said.
and you're a duck owner, so you would know about this whole duck thing, right?
I'm a duck owner, yeah, but I've got like it's called a Indian running duck. So that's like he's not on water. They can run around.
An Indian running duck.
Indian runner duck.
Got it.
love it.
I'm gonna have to Google that. Trusted advisor. Shoot, move, and communicate. Right. United States Marine Corps. But one of the things that we've been getting asked a lot in the last couple of weeks, which I have not been asked before, both on the buyer and the seller side, is tell me what to do. They're not using those exact words, but that's what they're saying. What should I do? Where should I go? I want your advice. And a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, I didn't hear a lot of that. A lot of that was they were telling me what they wanted. They were. Now we are starting to be asked, okay, what should I do here? So trusted advisor, communicate, shoot, move, and communicate.
Keith Smith, Scott Morris, Judah Wickhauer. Real Talk on a Wednesday, presented by Ross Mortgage and powered by Yes Realty Partners.
It's Polo Wednesday.
Polo Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Show was fantastic. The band is back together. We love having Scott on Wednesdays in the studio. The I Love Seville show is up in 59 minutes. Thank you kindly for joining us. Have a good morning and take care.
Okay.
Okay.